How's it going? I'm the Jason of all trades. Most of the videos on this channel are oriented at sewing, but I've recently embarked on a kind of a woodworking project, and I wanted to share this only because I think what I have to share would have been helpful to me if someone had made this video when I was looking into this information. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, getting back to sewing soon, I apologize for this diversion. And if you're not a regular viewer of my channel and you don't think you're interested in sewing, I would urge you to check out a video. I'll link something in the corner and put something at the end of the video. You might be more interested than you think you are. So what I wanted to talk about is this French cleat wall that it's not finished, but I'm at a point now where I think I can share some thoughts. And basically my perspective on this is that I am not a woodworker of any skill level. I would describe my skill level as maybe like a beginner apprentice carpenter, like rough carpenter. My joinery is not good. I don't even know how to do good joinery. And none of that has stopped me from making very effective French cleats and tool holders and storage holders and stuff to hang on my French cleat wall. So if you are thinking about, man, I would really love to do French cleats, but I don't really know how to do it, and I'm not going to teach you how to do it in this video, but I would like to encourage you that even if you do a poor job of it, they're likely to be okay. So let me bring you in closer and show you some of the ones I've done and kind of what I'm talking about. If you're not aware of what a French cleat is, it's made of two pieces of wood or some other material cut with a 45-degree bevel. One piece goes against the wall, and the other piece you can mount anything you want to it. And when you hang one bevel on the other, it makes for a very secure mounting, but it's easy to move and reposition items. Everything that I made here is made from reclaimed pieces of wood. I had a shelving system that was in this space from a prior tenant, and it was not working for me, so I took it completely apart and cut all of my pieces from that. So as a result, when I cut the pieces that are on the wall, I was left with this pretty skinny, opposite bevel. And I thought, most of the videos I've seen on French cleats, the piece that you hang your tool holders from is generally, the ones I've seen have been bigger than this. And I thought maybe this was all going to be scrap, but a lot of the pieces here are hanging off of this. There's enough room for me to drive a couple screws into it. If I was going to hang something very heavy or expensive, I might not use these pieces for that, but I've got a whole lot of this from cutting the pieces that are on the wall, so definitely want to use it up. So I say that to say, depending on what kind of wood you're starting with, I don't know that you necessarily have to stress out too much about having the hanging cleat be as big as the wall-mounted cleat. So I'll just give you a couple examples of some hangers I made. These are all very basic. People who are good at woodworking would probably not approve of some of the work I've done here, but I need to get this stuff organized up on a wall so I can make better use of it, and I don't really have time to learn to become a skilled woodworker. One of the advantages of this kind of a setup, though, is that later, if I spend more time and maybe get my skill level up better or get some nicer wood, I can just make new ones and take the junky one off and get rid of it, or make something else out of it and put a new one on. So it's a good way to kind of cut my teeth on this stuff. So one of the more complicated pieces I've made so far is this hanger for a bunch of hammers and mallets that I have. And this is just made of, scrap pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. I drilled a bunch of holes and cut with I think I used a bandsaw to cut out the slots for the hammers. No big deal at all. It's reinforced with a piece of wood underneath that's screwed to the panel. And this whole thing is hanging from 2 cleats, I think. Yeah, 2 cleats. So, since there's quite a bit more weight on this than a lot of the other things. Not that difficult to make. The piece that the hammers are hanging from is screwed and glued to the backer piece of plywood. I wouldn't want to climb on it, but it's certainly enough support for the weight of these hammers. So, similarly simple, I just took a piece of wood and drilled some holes in it large enough for the handles of my pliers. It's not perfect, but works good enough to have them there out of the way and easily reachable. And let me zoom in on this one. I'll show you something special about that. So because the holes aren't all that accurately drilled for the rubber grip on some of these pliers, it's possible that pulling the pliers out could cause this cleat to come off of the wall. There's nothing holding it down. So I just took a scrap piece of plywood and I cut it so that it would fit in that space. And now if I pull out one of the pliers that's a tighter fit, it's not going to pull against it. I think some people refer to that as a key, but anyway, you can do that with any of your holders if the object fits tightly enough that pulling it out might pull it up. There's other strategies you can employ to keep it in place, but that's a really easy one. You just have to cut a block to the right size and fit it in there. And it doesn't have to be that perfect of a fit, just enough to keep it from pulling out. So, couple other simple holders here. This one's maybe slightly more complicated because it required a Forstner bit. And this is another example of needing to have a strategy to keep it from coming off the wall. So this has a very powerful magnet inset into this piece of wood, and I just use it right now. I've got a coping saw hanging from it that I really don't use. It's just kind of here as a placeholder. But depending on what's on here, and because of the strength of this magnet, I could pull this off of the wall. So on this one, I just put a little block on the bottom just to add a little lip. So that way, when I pull this up, so that strategy doesn't work very well in this case because I can just pull the thing off. I could probably adjust the fit of that and get it so that it's tight enough that it won't come off easily, but loose enough that I can still take it off if I want to. I've just been pulling this down instead of up. Not a perfect solution at all, but whatever. I'll just make another one sometime. I'll figure out a better way. Next to it is a holder for my screwdrivers, and I just drilled more holes than I needed so that I have some flexibility. I can spread these out if I want to, or if I add more screwdrivers to it. These are just all the ones that were in my toolbox drawer, so I just put them all up here. But I may eventually decide, this is more than enough screwdrivers. Maybe I'll pare down and only have a smaller number and make this smaller or make a new one. Again, the beauty of the system is I can change things pretty much anytime I want to. This is a pretty fun one. Among the many things that came into my possession when my father-in-law passed away was some old wine boxes that he was using to store tools and stuff in the shop. So this is an old wine box, and I've mounted it to a cleat, and I'm using it to hold some wood glue, and I'm using it to store some wood glue, and I've got a hot melt glue gun in here. The idea is I'll probably just keep any kind of adhesives up here until I change my mind and decide to do something else with it. I also put a label that says adhesives on it because I looked all over the shop for my glue for about 20 minutes the other day before I remembered it was in here. This is my most recent cleat. It's just a piece of wood slotted to hold my squares, combination squares, and speed squares. Don't ask me why I have two of these. Well, I'll tell you. I don't know. I have two, so I hung both of them up. I also made a couple of cleats to hang my safety glasses and ear protection and my dust mask. It kind of takes up a lot of space for a few things. I'm not sure that this is what I'm going to end up with permanently, but I do like when I'm going to make a cut on the table saw or any of the power tools, I have all this stuff very easily reached and all in one place, so I'm not walking around the shop trying to find them. And the last things I have up right now, this is the first cleat I made. It's just a shelf with lip in front of it, and I'm keeping spray paint cans on it. I have at least twice this many spray paint cans that I need to store, so I'm going to make another shelf. That's going to be the biggest challenge for me, is trying to make a shelf that's exactly the same as this to hold the rest of my cans, but that actually came out pretty well. Fun fact, I wasn't making a shelf to hold my spray paint cans. I just threw something together to get a cleat on the wall so I could see if this was all going to work, and it happened to be perfect size to hold spray paint cans. So now I got to do it on purpose. And then I've got this measuring wheel I use. I'm just going to take it off the cleat. I took the biggest drill bit I have to make a hole big enough for this handle, and it's a little hard to get out. But I rarely use this thing, but occasionally I do need to have it around. So, and I want to point out that it's just on one of these little cleats. There's no support at all, but the weight of it is enough. The weight of it out here on this arm is enough to hold it securely on there, and it's fine. I'm sure if I bump into it, it'll fall off, but I'm not terribly worried about that. I'm going to get this one out of the way for a second, and then what I don't want to just get knocked off is this little propane torch. And again, not something I use very often, but when I need it, I want to know where it is and that it's in a secure place. So what all I did was, this has got a bigger cleat on it, and I just took a piece of wood and I drove just a commercially available hook that this can hang from, and that's it. One thing, if you're doing French cleats and you're concerned about like making all the holders and stuff, you can always buy shelf brackets or little hooks like this or whatever and just screw them into a piece of wood and use that. I am by no means knowledgeable or qualified enough to tell you how to make your cleats. I did all of mine on a table saw, and I used this commercially bought featherboard. I bought this push block. I'll put Amazon affiliate links in the description for all of this stuff if you're interested in any of it. I bought all this with my own money. None of it is sponsored. So, but I used this featherboard, and I used this push block that I bought for some of the cleats. I eventually ended up switching to a block that I made. I found this a little bit better for some of the widths that I was cutting. If I'm understanding it correctly, the whole magic of this particular block is that it controls both the piece that you're cutting and the offcut piece on the other side of the blade. And with what I have here, some of the dimensions that I had didn't allow for it to do that, and it was kind of getting in the way. They make additional components to make this expandable or something, but I didn't have all that. This worked really great for me, so there's plenty of resources online to tell you how to build a push block like this. Oh, and the saw that I used is a skill saw, contractor saw. Again, I'll put a link to it, and I have a video about the unboxing of this saw if you want to check that out. Again, I'm not a woodworker or knowledgeable about this stuff, but if you want to see what the saw looks like to a complete noob, then you can check that video out. There are other ways to do French cleats besides using a table saw. You can use a circular saw, a track saw, band saw. If you're really dedicated, I guess you could do it with a hand saw. But I found the table saw scary, but the most effective way for me to do it. All right, so if you are considering making a French cleat project, I hope that this video can be inspiring to you, that even if you don't know what you're doing, you know, if you're careful and are willing to accept some mistakes, that you can make an effective French cleat system, even if you're not a particularly skilled woodworker. I probably can't answer any real questions, but if you have questions or comments, post them in the comments section below. I don't post this kind of stuff that often on this channel, but I would love for you to check out some of my other stuff, and if you like that, please subscribe. And clicking like is always nice, whether you're going to subscribe or not. Thanks very much for watching.